to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
What's up, Forgers? Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 78 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. This is your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, who is more awesome than a dueling piano bar. It's Kristen Ashton.
Woo! Thank you. Dueling piano bars are fun. You've been, I'm sure, yes?
Oh, a million times. I have a soft spot for dueling piano bars, and I don't know what it is. But I really, really like going to dueling piano bars.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. The sheer skill it takes to be able to even do something like that, the improvisation especially, and to make it sound good, it's so cool. I mean, dueling banjos has nothing on dueling pianos.
No, and if you're listening out there and you're like, what the heck is a dueling piano bar? It's where usually the normal format is where two guys are sitting at two pianos and you write your requests down on like cocktail napkins and put them up on the bar, and they just play your requests off the top of their head. And extremely talented people, much more talented than I am at playing piano. These guys are rock stars. So if you have a chance, you should go to a dueling piano bar. But Kristen is even more awesome than a dueling piano bar. Let's talk about some more awesome things that are happening. I am checking the news feed on the Blizzard launcher like every 5 seconds because I cannot wait until those summer skins, sprays, banners, all that, summer extravaganza comes out.
I know, I'm saving up my shards because I'm hoping the skins aren't too expensive. Because I've got my eyes on a few, You've got definitely the Tychus skin, and I probably am going to go for that pink Super Soaker to go with the theme that I've got going. Most of the players I play are in bright pink, and they leave the little animated hearts on the ground when they do the spray, and they ride that silly little heart. It's ridiculous. What about you? Do you have a theme you're going for?
I like them all. I think they're all just funny, cool, cute. I mean, I think they're just all really great. And something that's really cool about some of the sprays that are actually in the game that are coming in this is that one of the artists that does the sprays actually designed our logo before he worked for Blizzard. So that's why our logo for Heroes Forge has kind of a, Heroes of the Storm spray feel to it.
Oh, totally. And it's incredible. The artwork is so much fun. It's really neat that they kind of went with this late 80s retro style theme to it. Lots of angles, lots of very, very bright colors. Because let's face it, the 80s are kind of coming back. We've had enough time away from that decade that now a few of the good styles can kind of make a resurgence.
Yeah, a few of the good styles I'm okay with. Some of the not so good styles, I think I'd rather stick in the current time period, probably. Let's talk about some other things, and we have a huge thank you at the top of the show because we have gained yet another patron of Heroes Forge. A big shout out to my buddy Drew O for becoming a patron of this show. Rock and roll. If you're listening to this, Drew, this is dedicated to you.
Oh, did Drew pick this hero? I need to know this.
He did not pick this hero, no. Okay. But I was very taken aback when I saw that he pledged to our show. And if you would like to pledge to the show too and help us grow dollar by dollar, you can do that over on patreon.com/HeroesForge. We're growing slowly and surely. I can't believe, Kristen, we are already on episode 78 and we have so many awesome patrons already.
Time goes by quickly. It's been over a year. It's been a year and a half already coming into July here. And before we know it, it'll be past BlizzCon and we will be celebrating 2 years. But I think before that, we'll hit 100, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And if you're thinking, what are they going to do for 100? Just wait, because we don't even know. It's going to be insane. So thank you again to Drew for supporting us week after week. Total rock star. Let's talk about the Heroes of the Storm soundtrack, which I can't believe we didn't even talk about this weeks ago when it came available on all of your favorite music streaming services. I have it on repeat in my car. I just really like it. I'm one of those super nerds, Kristen, like all heroes all the time.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a genre that you enjoy. Why not listen to it? Why not immerse yourself? And what's really cool about these playlists, too, is that there are a lot of songs on there that we've probably never heard. We know a few, but the others are brand new. And that's exciting about music because it opens up potentially new genres that you can find some really cool stuff in.
Yeah, and you can rotate through all of these Blizzard game soundtracks. It's inspiring. Some of these tunes that are out there are just really... I tweeted out earlier in this week that I went to the dentist and the only way I could hype myself up was to listen to the Overwatch soundtrack. And then I just went in there and I was ready to, have them find a cavity. They didn't. But if they did, I was ready for it.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad they didn't. So see, music cures cavities. You've heard it here, folks.
Right here on HeroesForge, quit brushing, start listening to Overwatch soundtrack. That's all it takes. Hey, speaking of Overwatch and like awesome teams and stuff, I had the awesome pleasure of joining you guys for some, as you say in the show notes here, sick Team League games yesterday, and they were awesome. It is such a great learning experience playing with all of you guys on Kyle Ferguson's stream week after week. They do these Team League games, and I sometimes have the awesome opportunity to sub in, and I'm telling you what, I learned so much each time I play.
Yeah, you're not wrong to say that it's a learning experience because the same thing goes for me. Every time I'm on there, I learn something. Like this past time, don't leap as a Sonya onto Johanna, who looks like she's almost dead when she's level 20, because guess what? All of a sudden, half health bar is back and the team wipes and it spirals out of control. But you learn some other cool things, like with Muradin. If you're up against a Vala and a Genji, use your ground slam to slow Vala's attacks and stun the Genji.
Yeah, your Muradin was on point that game. Your Sonya was on point too with the whole thing, and I learned tons. I mean, there was a point where I accidentally Crystal Aegis'd the Taz Dingo Zul'jin, and I mean that's just a recipe for disaster. We ended up coming back and winning that game, but it's things like that you don't really think about until you see there. Tons of awesome Brightwing feedback, and I mean it's just. Go watch the stream. I'll watch all of Kyle's streams and you'll be a better player for it because there's tons of stuff to learn. And thank you to that team for letting me join in. And thank you, Kristen, because, I mean, you're on that week after week, right?
Yeah, dude, but thank you for the heals. We needed some solid heals, and you pulled through with great variety, too. It wasn't just one or two heroes. You had all of them ready to go. I was
practicing. I'm telling you, I have... Like I've said before, pit stains, and I have to kind of, go, I got to take a big, deep breath and maybe pour myself an adult beverage after that stream because I'm trying real hard, but
hands are shaking, just wiping the forehead. Your wife is keeping you cool. She's got a nice
spray
towel
bottle
going. She's doing the water in the mouth, spit in the bucket.
I'm wearing a Camelback, like the straw that comes in here. Don't bother me. I'm trying to play Heroes of the Storm. Oh, speaking of Heroes of the Storm, let's do this. Let's forge.
Let's forge.
If this is your first time listening to HeroesForge, welcome to the show. If you're back again, thank you for joining us again. We're going to take a character that's not yet in Heroes of the Storm, and we're just going to talk about it as if they were in the game. We're going to build some kits, talk about what abilities these awesome Blizzard characters would have. We all know that Blizzard has a list. We're calling it the magical list, Kristen, that has somewhat like 300 plus characters from all of their universes on it that they're looking at making heroes for Heroes of the Storm. So we've got a lot to play with.
Yeah, and I like to imagine this magical list is similar to a map in one of those movies where characters don't know where to go. So they put on a blindfold and they throw a knife or they stick their finger on the map. and that's how they choose the location. And that's how I like to imagine the team chooses and challenges themselves when it comes to hero creation.
Yeah, that's a really cool way of thinking about it. I'm sure there's a little bit of that. Like, I'm sure they're trying to, represent all of the universes the best that they can with the knowledge of the people that are playing these games. And this show is a perfect example of how we kind of go round about all of the Blizzard universes, even the classic games that have classic heroes in them, and try to bring them to life for the Nexus. But there are times like this week where we run into a hero that myself personally, I don't know a ton about this character. We're going into the StarCraft land here, which is for me I don't want to say weakest, but my greatest opportunity for improvement when it comes to the lore, the backstory, the character knowledge. And it's a ton of fun to challenge yourself and to go in there and like, okay, I got to study up on this character. I got to see where we're at. And it takes time, but in the end, it's a blast.
It does, and it's a lot of reading. Although, for this StarCraft hero, there wasn't as much as there have been with previous, because it seems like this one was just in StarCraft 2, and the biography was simply a summary of the events of the final chapter of StarCraft 2, the Protoss campaign.
Yeah, and that's where we're at here. We're at blank pages when it comes to some things, which is our favorite thing to talk about on this show, is to kind of create what it would be. And I'm sure there's a lot of that going on in the actual hero creation from Blizzard, taking characters like Cassia and creating a hero out of that is just stellar. Like getting to that point where you can just come up with abilities and come up with things that fit the lore, but not necessarily something that was in the game.
Exactly, because Cassia is technically a brand new character. She's supposed to embody the Amazon warrior from Diablo 2, the Amazon warrior. I was forgetting, is it Amazoness? Warrioress? I don't know how to make it feminine, so we're just going with Amazon warrior. But yeah, and so they've given her her own character, because you do need individuals within heroes so that they're unique, but also when you do that, they do have to be representative of an entire section of the fan base.
Oh, totally. And that's kind of where we're at today. So, Kristen, who are we forging for the Nexus today?
Today we are taking on Karax.
Karax from StarCraft 2. Now, Karax might be able to join a certain sort of Protoss in the Nexus if he was brought in.
I think he could. I mean, he's Protoss all the way, and he's probably the most facially haired Protoss we have from the lore.
Absolutely. You can't disagree with that. You really can't disagree with that. That is 100% true fact. Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about Karax. So where is he from? What does he do in StarCraft 2?
Okay, StarCraft 2. Originally born to the lowest tier of the Protoss caste system, Karax proved to be an invaluable phase smith during the war against Amon. Following the resurrection of the Spear of Adun, Karax set to work bringing the ship to life through repairs and upgrades. In time, he would be promoted upward to become a Templar, joining the likes of Artanis himself.
Right. So I think when I read this, before I chose this character that we were going to talk about from StarCraft, I thought that there was a really, really good opportunity here to talk about his whole phase smithing, if for lack of a better term, like the way that he, like you said, is basically upgrading through repairs and doing all of these things to the ship. How do we bring that to heroes?
It's a great question, because he's not really a fighter, right? He's not somebody who goes down onto the field of battle and punches people in the face with mechanical fists he's invented. No, he's more of like Hephaestus, the lame smith god of Grecian mythology, where he'd rather build things than fight himself.
Absolutely. So I kind of hearken it to Q from the 007 films, has all the stuff. It's Q, right?
I believe so, but don't quote me. I'm not too up to date with my 007 lore. He's the old guy who has the awesome rundown of all of the cool gadgets Bond gets to use throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I think it stands for quartermaster. So, like, he's like that sort of character here. We're giving you all of the tools and doing all of your, awesome upgrades, and you get a car that's an Aston Martin, but actually it's a, Ford Focus or whatever, that kind of thing is what Karax is doing here for the Protoss in a way. And how do we bring that to the Nexus? Well, we're about to brainstorm on that and find out. I did win the Twitter vote last week for our build of the Cow King. So, Kristen, you get the pleasure of going first this week, and the first thing we talk about every week is the role classification for the game. And what role are you going with here?
The snowball started. I do one specialist, and now the next 5 things that I forge will be specialists, including Karax.
I haven't done a specialist in a long time, but I think there is a brilliant opportunity to bring a specialist to life in Karax. I think from everything we just talked about before, there's some awesome stuff going on there, and I want to hear your trait.
The trait is called Reclamation. Karax implants circuitry on an enemy structure, turning it friendly until that circuitry is destroyed by an enemy hero. Now, only one charge of this can be active at a time.
Rock on. That is a powerful trait. Oh, that's so cool. So the visual for this, is there some sort of box, like some sort of, tech box that's by the said fort or tower that's controlling it? How does it look?
It would be very much like that, except maybe not a box, because the Protoss have they're evolved and they don't need boxes. They do curved lines and smooth angles because they are high-class science fiction. So I would imagine it would be some circular device that you slap onto a tower or a fountain or a keep or whatever you manage to get to that takes it over. And maybe you see circuitry lines glowing and flashing so that it's clear to the enemy team, of course, when their own tower starts shooting them, that this is under control of your team now.
Now, you brought up a really great point. That was my next question. You can take over fountains too. So you could tap at a fountain that's an enemy fountain if this was taken over.
Very, very true. But keep in mind, I would imagine as soon as something goes friendly, all of the enemy structures around it would start attacking it.
Think of the strats on both ends of this, right? Because there's a strat where you would want to, normally when we go in there, or when I go in there, I know the first thing I'm going to target is that fountain, right? Take the fountain out so that you can, you can keep pushing forward and they don't have a place to tap without falling back. But if you're looking to possibly have an out for your team, you're going to leave it there if Karax is on there and then take out the fort and keep, or maybe you would use your reclamation on the fort of the... there's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But of course, this trait does have a weakness, right? What if you're on a team that doesn't allow you to push forward enough to take advantage of your trait? So there's kind of the give and take. So if you take him, you would need to be sure you could push forward enough to actually get the XP you are promising your team by taking him.
So here's another question. Let's say that you put this Protoss, mind control pylon on one of these buildings, and it is a tower of the first wall, and it becomes controlled by you. I'm assuming that the other towers and structures that are in that area would start attacking the ability box. I'm just going to call it a box. The box that's you attacking it, or do they attack the tower, or how does that work? Because there's a strat in there too.
Yeah, that's a really cool question. The way I envision it is that only enemy heroes can get at the box, because only they're smart enough to kind of know what's going on, whereas everything else would only attack the structure.
Okay, cool. So the other, because what I'm thinking here is if you put it on one of the towers at the front and all the other buildings suddenly start attacking that tower, right? You're going to gain XP and that tower is going to be destroyed by their own buildings.
Exactly.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Cool. Okay, what are you thinking for his mounting ability? That is so cool.
Okay, so the mount, I want it to be kind of like, I want it to be a Protoss hoverboard, basically. So there's a scene when Karax is being awarded Templar status because, Artanis is getting rid of the caste system because we are all Templars, and Karax is trying not to cry because it's an important moment, but he gets to the bridge, and he gets on this little hoverboard that lifts him up to where the group of Protoss are meeting. So it's kind of like Gleaming Star Chariot, except the top portion is detached from the bottom, and it's this golden circle.
That is so Protoss. I know exactly the scene. I watched it that you're talking about. Such a great idea. And the look of that is really neat. Like the Protoss mount that's in the game right now, I feel like the scale for that is too big. I think it's like too long. I don't know. It just feels weird to me, the way that it rides in the game right now, where I'm envisioning your mount to be kind of that same Gleaming Star Princess size.
Yeah, smaller, softer, not as pointy. You know, like I mentioned earlier, that higher class of science fiction technology. It's very clean, it's very smooth, it doesn't need points because it's not an evil science fiction power, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I get what you're feeling. And of course, there'd probably be really cool color schemes like the blue, the yellow, maybe even like a red would be really cool.
Oh, there we go. Alarak would definitely commission a red. He would not write anything that wasn't black and red.
No. And if you picked something that wasn't black and red, it would change to be black and red. Love it. Let's talk about basic abilities here. What's your first basic?
The first one is Power Field, and this is a beam that shoots from Karax, and it engulfs a target-friendly unit or hero in a specialized field of power that gives them additional attack speed and increased healing from healing effects.
Cool. So like a total awesome support type feeling here, but you can also do it on units, which makes it feel specialist-y. You could give that to, say, the Giants or something, and then they would have an increased attack speed, and you could heal your mercenaries through this too.
A little bit, yes, but not directly, because the beam itself doesn't heal. It only gives the buff that they receive increased healing from healing effects.
Nice. I like the combo wombo with support characters, you know, being able to draft a team here where Lieutenant Morales' heal is pretty strong on its own, but if they had a power field on them from this and a Brightwing was on your team doing that AoE heal, which is not as powerful, you're going to gain most value out of that because you can have all the utility of Brightwing, but getting a stronger heal with this basic ability.
Exactly. So you take a hero who's weak in certain aspects and then you buff their potential, which can turn into some really cool strategies.
Oh, yeah. So cool. And then the fact of you're turning buildings on themselves with your trait and going in here with this power field. Can you put the power field on yourself?
No. I like to imagine it's similar to Tassadar's beam. Maybe it's a little wrist laser that shoots off of a device on his arm. And you know, in Star Wars, where it shows how the shield generator is protecting the Death Star,
right,
in Return of the Jedi, that visual, except up to date.
That's really cool. And think of what we didn't talk about is what Karax looks like what his whole look is, which is kind of a Protoss look, but also he's shorter and stumpier. I mean, he looks like Santa to me in a way, or maybe even the Innkeeper in a way, where he's not tall and, you know, thin like you see Artanis, Tassadar, these, you know, the other Protoss that we talk about. He's kind of shorter, not kind of, he's actually shorter and thicker.
Yeah, he's basically the dwarf of the Protoss, and he's got a beard, and I'm surprised he doesn't have a Scottish accent.
He doesn't. He doesn't. Well, maybe in Heroes of the Storm there would be a skin for that, and he would have a Scottish accent. Voice line opportunity, I feel it. What's your next basic ability?
The next one is called Generator, because I hear you asking, what if there's no healer there with you? Your Q is going to go to waste, but fear not. The generator allows Karax to toss down a tiny machine of his design that gives a passive heal to all units in range.
Love it. This is great. So the tiny machine is going to be kind of like a Lucio boombox.
Yeah, just like that. Smaller range, I would imagine, but sight, of course, and all of that good stuff. But certainly, definitely like the boombox.
So is it pulsing a heal beam, or is it is it a Brightwing heal in a way where you're putting this boombox down, or is it a constant heal like the actual boombox is?
I like to imagine it's a constant, regular heal, because I think that would work best with his kit. And also the idea that he wants his lane to survive a push rather than destroy faster. You live longer rather than kill faster.
So like a defensive kind of thing rather than offensive.
Exactly. So you buff everyone as much as you can, soak all of that damage, and outpush because you have so much health.
Aha. Very cool. So what's your third basic to go along with that?
And the third is grab, because you got to have a defensive ability as a specialist, because a lot of the times you're going to be alone and you need some sort of get away from me button. So this one is called grab. This ability comes with 2 charges, one for each of his hair extensions. When activated, one of the extensions grabs an incoming enemy and pushes them back until the arm is fully extended. And it holds the enemy at this length for a set period of time.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about his, what we're calling hair extensions. So explain that a little bit, about how he looks, because we all know these Protoss got these, they got
dreads.
Dreadlocks going on, but Karax's are a little different.
They're a little different, exactly. Because they had to be cut and severed from the Kala because the Kala got infected by Amon, you now have these hair extensions that are just sitting around doing nothing. So in order to increase his ability to fix things faster and more efficiently, he attached 2 tentacle arms, very much like Doc Ock, except you don't have 4, he just has 2.
Yeah, and he uses these to, like you said, construct or fix or, doing all this stuff. So this ability, the grab, would be awesome Karax feel to it. Like you're reaching out with this Doc Ock arm and grabbing somebody. So you're pushing them out just directly away from where you're at.
I would imagine whatever angle. So the area would be in a circle, and whatever angle the guy, the person, the girl is approaching you from, you grab them and then it just pushes them back out that same angle. So it would then hold them, and they could run around in a circle equidistant around your center, but you could also walk away.
So you're not stationary, you can move.
Correct. And they're not stationary either. They can go in that circle, they just can't push closer to you.
Oh, that's cool. This is like a modified Dahaka tongue in a way, where you're grabbing somebody, instead of pulling them in, you're pushing them out, and they're still able to move, and you are too.
That's a very, very apt description, yeah.
Love it. That's such a cool, different feel to it. It's really cool. Okay, let's get into some heroics here. What's your first one?
The first one is known as replication. Master Crafter, Karax phases in replicants that take the form of the first enemy unit to do damage to it. To indicate the lower amount of health and attack speed and attack damage, these replicants are half the size of the copied unit.
So like a shrink raid version of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little mini Vala, maybe you've got a mini Dahaka going, and you're going to phase in quite a few through the course of this. So pretty soon you're going to have this tiny heroes army charging forward with all of their might.
Until they die, right? They last until they die?
They last until they die or they're killed.
Oh, okay. So let's... This is so cool. So what do the replicants look like before they take the form of the first enemy?
Maybe they could look like the random man, the purple random man. There's no telling what it's going to be because they haven't taken damage yet, but they could be anyone.
Oh, love it. I want to forge the random man, whatever his name would be, which we would come up with if we talked about it on the show, for the Nexus and what that would be. We had a listener send that idea to us, a bunch of listeners that want it. So in the future, we see that. And this is really neat. because it forces the enemy to make choices here on who's going to attack this replicant, because I'm assuming it's doing damage before you attack it, so you've got to take it out.
Exactly, and it's going to be doing enough damage, of course, that you want to take it out. Or maybe the first one doesn't, but each subsequent one adds so much damage that they can eventually overwhelm you. So it's one of those that it doesn't seem strong at first, but if you stand in the Phoenix, it's going to hurt after a while.
And what do you think a level 20 augmentation for this would be?
Full-sized copies that do even more damage.
Love it. Or 2 mini-sized ones.
That's true. Would you rather fight 2 mini Valas or 1 regular-sized Vala?
I would take 1 regular-sized Vala, I think, but who knows until this comes in. What's your second heroic?
The second one is called Solar Lance. After a relatively lengthy summon, an enormous beam of energy shoots down from above and slowly makes its way forward, disintegrating virtually everything in its path.
So this is basically the Artanis beam, but it's not following a hero. It's going straight down whatever path you choose it to go on, and it's going to do more damage?
Oh, it's an enormous circle. Think Dahaka's area swarm ability.
Okay.
That size, maybe a little bigger. It just boom onto the field and just moves. You want to talk about zoning? This thing will get people to run.
So kind of like the same feel as a Thrall Earthquake, that kind of distance, or are you thinking even longer?
I'm thinking with this one, because it would do so much damage, it would be slower. So it would be very, very important as to the placement of it. And because of how much damage I'd want to make it, how powerful, it would have a lengthy summon. So you could pay attention and keep interrupting if you're on top of that. But, you know, Karax is a crafty guy. What if he hides in a bush to do his summon?
Oh, man. And the damage will be real, right? I mean, you're talking... Oh, that is so cool. And so on a specialist level, how do you see using this ability as a specialist? Or is this one that you take when you're like, we need more damage, so I'm taking this?
This one, I would see, it could be many situations. Definitely maps where you need to control spots, because that could very, very easily wipe an enemy team pushing into maybe a Braxis holdout pad or a Sky Temple pad. But what if you are getting to push a lot by yourself? You could summon this down onto a keep, onto a fort, and just wreck the entire thing.
Oh, yeah. I love it. It's such a cool idea because it's got that tinker feel to it. He's tinkering. He's got this laser just lying in wait until level 10 and then unleashing it. And it's going to be even... It's different than Artanis. I love it. It's very cool. Okay, Kristen. What a great build. Well, how do you sum the whole thing up?
The whole thing is summed up with one simple word. Unfazed.
The puns did not stop at the Cow King episode. We have moved to puns on Karax. Unfazed. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Well, before we get over to my build, which I'll give you a hint is also a specialist Karax, we have some people that we need to thank again. All of our patrons, and another thank you to Drew for joining the patron crew this week. Again, if you'd like to join up on the patron site, it's patreon.com/HeroesForge, and you can check out all of our goals that we're working towards this summer to bring you more content week after week. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone that's given us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you listen to this show on iTunes, it really helps the show grow. Head on over to iTunes and search for HeroesForge, which is all one word. Subscribe to the show and leave us a review, and we'll give you a shout out right here at this point of the show. And also, thank you to everyone that joins us in chat week after week. Rockstars talking in the background, and we get to play off of what chat's saying, and it's just great. Let's get into my specialist build of Karax here with the trait, which is also called, drumroll please, Reclamation.
You have to have it. It seems like that's one of those things where if you're going to build Karax, you have to have Reclamation.
Absolutely. And in this build, Karax will act as a defensive specialist that is able to augment friendly units and buildings to assist with the defense of the friendly core. His trait Reclamation will allow him to select a structure that fires shots on the enemy and allow it to prioritize enemy heroes no matter what target is in range. Only one structure can have this buff on at a time, and the trait has a 60-second cooldown. So, we know we all wait for the minions to go in before we start fighting a structure because we're going to take those tower shots. Well, if Karax happens to get there first and put Reclamation on that structure, it will attack heroes first rather than minions.
Oh, interesting. I like that. That is a cool way to play around with structures that we haven't really seen before.
Because that is like the number one rule, one of the number one rules of Heroes of the Storm. Not the number one rule, but one of them. And I'm telling you, if you kind of messed with that, it would be a really cool way of maybe that building is engulfed in some sort of Protoss lightning energy or something is around it. So you could see that is going to attack you instead. And then, of course, there would be tier augments to this ability where it would gain damage maybe, or it would gain attack speed. And then as we move down my kit here, you might see how this might come into play.
Oh, nice. So you're thinking maybe he'll be centered around structural defense or maybe even structural offense.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a type of hero that we don't really have right now in the Nexus, which is a pure defense type of character, where someone rolls out Sylvanas, and if you could decide to, hey, we got to jump Sylvanas and pay attention to that, or we would roll a Karax in there and try to, defeat Sylvanas in a different way. But before we get into some basics here, let's talk about the mount. I'm calling it the Protoss Power Pad, which is exactly what Kristen was talking about. You got to have it.
Great minds, man. And I think the reason we both turn to that is because it's a very iconic moment in Karax's limited history within the StarCraft universe. It is the moment he is literally raised up to join a caste. Before the war, he would have never been allowed to join.
And you absolutely have to have alliteration like Protoss Power Pylon, so I'm going with Protoss Power Pad. The Q on this build is called Rehabilitation. So when Karax is in range of a structure, he can channel his energy to repair it. The more damaged the structure is, the more time and energy from Karax it will take to repair that building. Karax will need to remain stationary to channel this ability. It acts kind of like a stationary Morales heal beam, but on structures.
This is a really cool idea. So basically, we're dealing with a hero that shouldn't really be a team fight much, maybe until level 10, right? Until you can get potentially an ability that can deal damage to a team. He just defends, and the name of the game would then be Break the Defense.
Yeah, it's very different, right? Because we have heroes like Abathur. We have heroes like, these heroes that aren't necessarily present on the battlefield, the Murkies. And the Murkies and the Abathurs are still part of team fights when it comes to this. But really, this is a defense character in my mind, where you're on the battlefield and you're present, unlike Abathur, but you're not in the thick of it because you really can't do a whole heck of a lot. Because your focus is, like you said, defense.
Definitely. When it comes to healing the structures, does this affect ammo as well? Like, you get a structure back up to 100 and then it refills shots? Or do you see that as something that would be talented into?
Oh, no, I think maybe it does. Maybe he's, he is, the ultimate, tinkerer here. So yeah, I think it adds ammo back. It's like refueling these structures up. Imagine your Karax and you're jumping on your power pad and you're going from lane to lane to kind of be that mule where you're repairing these buildings and that's your job.
Yeah, and what if you had a talent that when you get to the ammo portion of the refill, you could have special ammo that it gives? Maybe it does spell damage. Maybe it does basic attack damage, and you could choose that based on what you're defending against.
Oh, you're selling me. That is so cool. That could be a trait too. I mean, that could be a really cool trait where you choose at the beginning of the game. Oh, that is really, really neat. The second basic ability is called Servitor Drone. So Karax can use this ability to place a drone on the battlefield that will scan a selected area with a short range. The drone kind of acts like a placeable arcane punisher beam that will shoot a beam that travels in a circle around the drone. If enemy teams enter the beam, they will take damage from it. Karax is able to place 2 of these drones on the battlefield at a time, and they last for a short amount of time. So another defensive ability here where you could set up, basically you're putting up the barbed wire for people. If they want to take that fort, they're really going to have to try.
That too, or maybe this makes him not so useless on hold the objective maps, right? You keep your front walls. He's close enough to go in and help you hold a point. So you could still do work on Sky Temple, for instance, right? You wouldn't be at the mercy entirely of temples.
Oh yeah, and imagine the delay on something like Cursed Hollow. You could put this down and it's just going in a circle and it's traveling fast enough to just keep pinging you if you're trying to pick up that tribute. I mean, there's a lot of different utility, and you could even have an offensive utility with it too.
Oh, totally. Pushing lane, right? Because what if the circle is the perfect size to sweep out an entire minion push?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff you could do with it. And then, of course, talenting into it to get the beams larger, do more damage, bigger. I mean, there's a ton of potential there. The third basic ability I'm calling Expel. This is kind of an odd thing, but I think it might be useful. So Karax selects a target structure to send a pulse to, and it pushes all enemies away from it. This ability can be used on both friendly and enemy structures to help with positioning and allow for either a welcome break for the structure damage or allow for the friendly team to push that lane.
Yep, there we go. Disruption. Placement disruption is incredibly, incredibly important. I mean, that's probably why Diva has seen so much success recently, being able to push people out of where they want to be.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, like I said in the description, you would use it in different places, and kind of like the same idea that you had where this beam is coming out of the sky. This is the same sort of thing where there's like a beam that shoots out of the sky on a targeted structure, and it just basically Brightwing Emerald wins people away from the structure. And the reason it's not heroic like that is because you can't do it anywhere. You can only do it on selected structures.
Fair enough. And would you see it having the area of an Emerald Wind or a bit smaller?
I think that same distance, which is pretty far. I mean, pretty intense. And actually, the idea for this came because in the Team League streams that we played yesterday, there were a lot of chances for a Brightwing Emerald Wind to kind of save the game, to push people off of the core that were attacking the core. Sadly, they didn't play out, but I thought that would be a kind of cool idea to bake into a structure to be able to give it a little more defense.
Yeah. Oh, and here's a question. Okay, so we have towers, Emerald Wind length off of them. What if you put it on keeps and forts? Is it the same distance away, or would it be smaller just because the structure itself is smaller?
Oh, that's a good thought. Maybe it would be smaller because the structure itself. Thinking like logistically wise, the beam that's going to cause this to happen is going to be the same beam. So it's not going to be any more powerful off of a structure or the core, say, for instance. So yeah, probably the same distance no matter what.
Cool.
Yeah, so those are the basics. Now let's talk about some heroics. So this first one is called Master Phase Smith. So when this ability is used, all structures for the friendly team will become empowered by Protoss energy and begin to fire at 2 times the speed on the enemy for a short amount of time. With the combination of this and other Karax's abilities, it could be devastating for the enemy team looking to pick a fight close to these structures.
Oh, I could imagine they're pushing and it looks awesome, but then you drop that displacement and it pushes them further in, so then they're targeted by everything, and maybe you've got the beam going and you've got everything hopped up with crazy ammo. Ouch.
And then with the trait, the structures are also attacking the heroes rather than the minions, and you'd have to really play around and practice on what structures to expel from. Like if you're say they're going right in and they're not attacking the fort, or they're not attacking the towers, they're just going straight for the fort or the keep, you could push them from the tower, which, like you said, would bring them into more danger.
Yeah, definitely. Or maybe too, there's a backline squishy, you're trying to get closer, and that's the little bit of push that you need for your tank to go in, grab them, you guys secure the kill, and suddenly the change of battle is upon you.
Yeah, who knows where that would go. And it would be for all of your structures too. So if they, it's got to feel heroic, right? It's like that Probius ult, where just all the things just start shooting at you and you're basically on a death timer.
Oh my goodness, they do so much damage when those things are well placed.
It really does. My second heroic ability here is called Liftoff. Now, Liftoff sounds really familiar if you play StarCraft. So Karax has retrofit all of the structures for the friendly team with boosters that allows them to lift off into the air for a short amount of time and become untargetable for that amount of time. When this is selected, Karax can select a target structure and have it lift off. It will land a short time after. Now, a level 20 augment for this would be that Karax could move the structure a short distance while it was in the air.
This is supposed to be a Protoss campaign, sir. This is not Terran and their dirty tricks.
It is. It's stealing a little bit from the enemy.
That's true, right? And Raynor's a friend to all Protoss. So I guess maybe he picked Raynor's brains. And let's face it, Karax is not one to judge. He sees machines and living beings as structures, be it biological or non-biological.
But this is a big StarCraft thing, right? I mean, being able to lift these buildings up off the ground, it says StarCraft to me. So that's what I'm going with here. And also it feels a lot defensive, right? So let's say your keep's about to go down, and instead of Molten Core from Ragnaros, you throw this structure up into the air, which gives you an opportunity to kind of regroup and give your team a chance to keep going.
Exactly. And then you have that one Karax who goes, I got this, guys, hold up. And it looks like he's going to get your keeper fort and save your keep and save you guys from catapults. And then he misclicks and up goes the fountain. And everyone's going, no! Karax, why?
Yeah, but imagine the cores levitating, right? Like the core is about to die. Imagine the esports moments here, like 10%, 5%. Core lifts up. They wipe the other team. They run on the other side, blow them up.
This includes the core?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, okay, so when it's lifted up, does the bottom terrain become passable?
Oh, I'm going to go all out on devs here and say, yes, it becomes passable. And if the building comes crashing down on you while you're underneath it, you die.
I think, that's pretty sick. That is pretty sick. I mean, it was cool before, but the ability to crush wicked witches under houses, and now we need a Li Ming skin with striped socks and red ruby slippers.
Absolutely. And Chad is even saying that you can void prism a core, so it seems like, I mean, it's possible. It's not OP.
It's true. The core is interactable with many other things, so why not this one?
Why not put some jets on it and lift it off the ground? Steal the ideas from the Terran.
Take that, Terran. We're going to use your stuff against you, and you get extra XP for every Terran on the enemy team.
That's right. And when the building lifts off, if Raynor's on your team or Tychus, they say, "What the hell?"
I would imagine Raynor would stand there. His face thing would flip up. He would cry a single tear and salute it as I don't know, what's Raynor's bird, would fly by and give a screech with the Raynor's Raiders flag attached to its tail.
We're going all out with this. This is perfect. That's going to be the end of my build. So if I had to sum it all up, it would be defense. Pure structural defense is what this is. Something we don't have, but something that could possibly work in a world of 200 heroes, right? I mean, there's a lot going on here.
It's very, very true. And we have heroes that interact with the structures themselves already. So why not have a hero whose entire kit is about interacting with the structures?
Yeah, it would be crazy. Before we can call these builds completed, truly completed, we got to talk specialty skins and dance moves. So I'll start this week off with my specialty skin. I brought it up before. Santa Claus is what Karax looks like, but he wouldn't be just a Santa Claus, right? He'd be robotic Santa.
Oh, so kind of like Futurama, the murder bot Santa Claus, who
Yes.
shows up. Now, would he have guns in this situation, or would it be kind of different?
Kind of different, but if you want him to have guns, I can bend the rules and he can have guns.
Well, whatever maybe he's got some Protoss weapons, right? Guns are a little gross, lower class sci-fi. We need some high class pinky up sci-fi weapons here.
So I imagined him to be a melee character. So in this robotic Santa, he would have guns, but he wouldn't shoot the guns. He would just beat you up with the guns because he's a melee character still. And he's like, I don't need no stinking bullets.
Eat this gun, and then he punches you with the gun. Yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm very much a fan of humor where items are not used how they're supposed to be used. So I am all on board guns being used as melee weapons.
Eat this gun. I love it. My second idea for a skin would be, of course, Doc Ock, because he's got that arms Doc Ock feel.
He does. It would be hard not to give him a Doc Ock skin. I mean, the more heroes we get with weird tentacles on their back, I think the more likely it is eventually a white lab coat will be thrown on those.
Chad is saying that if we had this robotic Santa, that Probius would need a Santa's helper skin as well. That's just like sold.
And there's a sleigh mount where you can hitch Probius to the front of the sleigh and his little eye glows red.
Oh, that's perfect. You just beat the game, Kristen. You beat the game. What's your skin idea?
The skin I was thinking of, we talked earlier too about him being the dwarf of the Protoss. So why wouldn't Karax be a D&D player? And why wouldn't he LARP? And why wouldn't he have a dwarf costume where he paints his beard different colors, red mostly, but you have skin tints, and he prefers drinking at taverns rather than actually going on the adventure?
It's perfect. Why wouldn't he LARP?
Why not? He is 100% a LARPer, in my opinion. Karax is a secret LARPer. He doesn't tell anyone because he just got promoted. But, if you ask him and you give him a wink and you promise not to make fun of him.
Right, but he won't break character.
Oh, no, he is legitimately in character from start to finish. He's one of the best role players you will ever meet. You play a game with him, you will speak of it for years after.
Right, he is the Daniel Day-Lewis of LARPing. He comes into your house where you have pizza rolls and, Boston Lager, and he comes in with a wooden keg, fully dressed, ready to play your RPG, and from the second he steps into your house, he is the LARP dwarf.
And if you don't LARP the way he wants you to, he will challenge you to D&D fisticuffs.
Right, with guns that he punches you with instead. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Now, this begs the question that I'm sure all of our listeners are thinking, because I'm thinking the same question. Have you ever LARPed?
No, I haven't, but I would very much like to. It's something I want to do in my life, but if you do play D&D with me, I am very much in character for pretty much 95% of the time. When I went down to Florida and we met up with Garrett and Ben and did a D&D campaign, there was a point where I had somebody by the throat because I was a human, but I had this cool metal arm that I basically went around punching people with, Bucky Barnes, basically. And so I had somebody by the throat, and that person was held by the throat the entire time. My hand was up, and it was in position.
Now, to clear this up, you're not holding like an actual human being that's in the room by the throat.
No, it was the imaginary NPC was being held by the throat.
I had Garrett by the throat up against the wall for like 2 hours.
He couldn't move. It was really awkward after the game ended, but, you know, things will happen in D&D.
Yes, a true performance, and then take a bow at the end of it. I agree. Let's talk about dance moves for Karax here, which is what we're here to talk about, believe it or not. What are some dance moves you were thinking?
Well, the dance move I really want to give him, because he's got those tentacle arms that are so long, I want him to do snake arms, where they slither back and forth. I think that visual would be pretty cool. But maybe, what are some classic Scottish dances? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, the first thing I think of is like river dance, or is that Irish? It's Celtic.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know if there are any classical Scottish dances that are clear when done, but, you know, maybe we could go in that realm when he's in his LARP costume.
A special, that'd be a legendary skin, because it would change the dance move. I dig it. My dance move is just break dancing Karax, and you know how the really talented break dancers can like hold their body up in like a position and they're spinning around their arms and stuff? Well, that's what he does. He puts his robotic tentacle arms / dreadlocks on the ground, lifts his body up, and is able to kind of, you know, keep his body in one position but break dance around it.
Awesome. Those are always really cool videos to watch. Yes. It speaks to his talent and commitment to an art form.
Absolutely, because the Daniel Day-Lewis of characters in Heroes of the Storm. Let's call this hero Forged. A lot of really great minds moments in this build, Kristen. Starting with the specialist, starting with the ability to augment buildings and do stuff like that. Is this something you see in the game? What are your thoughts about it? About Karax coming to the game, or a hero like this in general?
I think it probably won't be anytime soon. As for Karax himself, I don't know if he's iconic enough to be brought in, because there are so many other characters with more history behind them and more fandoms that, you know, it would be safer for Blizzard to turn to those. But at the same time, the idea of a truly defensive hero is just so tempting, especially if you like playing a defense specialist. It's so much fun to set up your little area and defend as hard as you can. Can you stand against one hero? Can you stand against two heroes? Can you stand against all 5 heroes?
Yeah, and it's got that support. I mean, maybe my build is closer to support than specialist, because the feeling when you're in a team fight and you're Lieutenant Morales and you're running around and you're switching your beams and you're putting shields on people and you're doing the stim drone and you're doing all that, that's the same sort of feeling that I see for Karax going in, but for structures rather than for heroes.
And that's fascinating, because would it be specialist or would it be healer? I would imagine specialist, only because you're not healing the heroes directly.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go. I think we did justice to Karax here with the, you know, the master phase smith creating technology to help the team. I don't think you could really, I mean, you could kind of bend it to be an assassin, bend it to be any of the other role classifications, but I think specialist or support is really where it lives.
Yeah, and that's his story, right? He helped bring life back to the Spear of Adun, the giant ship, by fixing it up. He gave the armies, people better at fighting than he is, the equipment they needed to be successful in battle.
Yeah, and if you, because believe it or not, with the research we do for this show on what characters people are looking for to be put into this game, if you search Google for the top 10 StarCraft characters that people want in Heroes of the Storm, Karax is actually on that list, so who knows?
Nice. That would be pretty cool. I'm all for it. I would not be against it. And who wouldn't want more Protoss in the mix, right? We need some more StarCraft representation.
Absolutely. I think we're about to see it. I think we're going to get to this fork in the road where there's going to be a ton of characters from other universes out there, and we're kind of just on the cusp of it where it's about to explode with Warcraft characters, but it's inbound. And I think they're all going to be StarCraft support characters, and then everybody's going to be like, we need more assassins.
Exactly, but I don't know, maybe that's 2 years down the road. But I mean, assassin players aren't going to be upset if there's a new assassin introduced, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
And you know, something that's really fun to think about is when we were at BlizzCon last year and you're waiting to play the new stuff. This year it was, you know, Ragnaros and Varian, and you're waiting to play, and they had this display up, and on the display it showed every hero that they had released in the last year since BlizzCon, and the heroes kept popping up like crazy. And this year, I keep imagining how it's going to be no different. We will have tons of characters in this game from BlizzCon to BlizzCon, and they're not slowing down.
No, not at all. And that speaks to the importance of all of us to keep up with our homework and researching and reading and trying out heroes. Because as long as you can stay on the upper end of that information curve, the more you know, the better you'll generally fare during fights and everything, because you'll know what to expect, and there will be very little to catch you by surprise.
Yeah, and that's another learning that I had from playing on Kyle's Team League stream, where you guys were saying, you know, the information curve is really steep right now because there are tons of specific abilities. Zul'jin, you know, all of these characters that do specific things that you're trying to avoid or push through, and if you don't know, then you're going down.
Yeah, exactly. And also with the ults, do you run away? Do you engage? What do you bait out first? When is it safe to engage? All of that comes down to knowledge.
Yeah, it's really great. It's getting to be huge, and who knows, maybe we'll have more bans in the future. Maybe things will just, you know, open up with Heroes 3.0, and maybe we'll even do another wrap.
Well, I think there's talk on the air of something coming in the future.
That's right. I'm just going to put a picture up of 3 candles, and then each candle is going to actually light up instead of go out, and at the end, we're going to have our next tune to deliver all of you.
There we go. We should probably have a countdown, shouldn't we?
We absolutely should.
I'm not confirming or denying, but we should have a countdown.
For the thing that we may or may not be doing for you guys out there. Well, thank you so much for listening. Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs when you're not on HeroesForge?
In the interwebs, you can find me at Dream Destroyer. That is DRMDESTRYR over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
And what are you working on your streams this week?
Still going through Witcher 3. This is a big game. It's going to be like Dark Souls, where it takes forever, but the forever seems like a split second. And we finished Batman Arkham Asylum, so we are moving on to Arkham City Saturday.
Ooh, I played Arkham Asylum, but not Arkham City, so I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on that, and maybe I'll pick it up. Also, the Steam Summer Sale is going on right now, so if you're looking to pick up some games, I got an email from Steam that's like, 12 of your games on your wish list are on sale.
Oh, you can't say no to that, right? I know Duke Nukem is definitely on the list and will be played in the future. That was a very wonderful gift I received from the summer sale.
There's a ton of great games out there to just pick up for like 50 cents and play for the summer. That's why it's there. Summer sale. If you're looking for me, you can find me right here on HeroesForge. We record the show live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV, because we're so lucky to be part of the Amove TV podcast and entertainment network. Check them out at amove.tv for more awesome content. If you'd like to email us an idea for a hero that you'd like to see on this show, you can email us at contactheroesforge@gmail.com or visit our website, which is heroesforge.club, and tap on that contact tab at the top section and shoot us a little note. Also on that same website, heroesforge.club, you can find the 77 more episodes that we've done of characters that we've forged for this game, special guests that we've had on, the awesome privilege of having a Blizzard developer on the show at one point. So check out all of our past episodes over on the website. Also follow us on Twitter at Forge Heroes, where you can vote on which one of these two builds you thought was the better for the week. And then also a huge thank you again to our patrons over at patreon.com/HeroesForge for all of their support. Kristen, final thoughts on Karax.
Karax would be dangerous if they brought him to the Nexus, because it would further make me want to play solo Karax. Solo specialist. I don't need to join team fights. I'm my own person. I'm defending. Can't you all see that's important enough?
Especially if you were LARPing as Karax, the D&D dwarf.
Well, that may happen if Karax is released, you know? To play nothing but Karax, and then it's nothing but LARPing on my stream.
Blizzard, if you're out there, we want not only Karax, but if he comes, won't be complete without the LARP skin. And Kristen will play nothing. You heard it right here. Nothing but Karax, the D&D player. All right, we're going to call it there. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you all in the real world.